What up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And together we're Dice and Dragons. Wait, sorry, that's from What You've Been Playing Wednesdays. 3, 2, 1. What up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice and Dragons, we are going to be reviewing Villain Pack number 5, Terror Through Time for Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, published by Renegade Game Studios and designed by Jonathan Ying. Now, if you take a look at what we got set up in front of us, this is one of 3 components, 3 new expansions that we've gotten for the game that we're playing all at the same time. If you're wondering why everything around us looks very similar, we are playing as the Time Force Rangers, and we've got the Merciless Minions pack in play as well. Now I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who's going to tell you more about the game itself.
First of all, we'd like to thank Renegade Games for sending us this review copy. We appreciate the support of the channel, but we'd like to remind our viewers that our opinions will remain our own. So this is a cooperative game for 2 to 5 players for ages 14 and above that plays in about 60 to 90 minutes.
And it can be expanded up to 6 players as well, because there's always a 6th ranger that shows up at some point somewhere. Now, it could be one that fits with the team if you happen to have Jen Scott kicking around, or it could be someone else. You don't need to play a full ranger team if you don't want to. So what will you be doing in the game? Well, since we've got it all set up in front of us, you'll be moving to different locations, playing cards from your hand in order to defeat the enemies. You will also then have to defeat the monsters that will come into play, and eventually you will have the boss monster that will come into play that you need to defeat. In the case of this game, you have Rancic and Trakina for the bosses. You also do have some new Nemesis minions, which will do some extra special damage to specific rangers. In that case, just to give you an example, we have Vrak from Megaforce, who will be foiling things and just messing some stuff up. And we also have Decker from Power Rangers Samurai. And so we've got some nice content from all across the Power Rangers universe. Now, you're going to need to defeat all of the villains. I like to say to protect Angel Grove, but I mean, we've got the Clock Tower, Stone Canyon Eye. Not really sure where we are in terms of geography at this point, so just save the planet Earth is what I'm going to be going with from now on.
So as you defeat the minions, you raise up your power level in order to get your different Zords and then the Megazord, right, Jason?
Exactly. So that's another thing you're going to be doing. Collecting Zords, getting the Megazord, and using it to stomp all over your enemies. And you can also use the Megazord to fight some bigger enemies if you happen to get those expansions. I think we've talked enough about the game to get the idea of where we're going. And this one, we're just really focusing on the villains. You can find the other reviews. They'll be either already out or coming out, not sure the order that I'll be releasing this in. So on that note, we're now going to
grab our drink,
grab our fellow ranger.
We're going to take it to the table one more time.
One more time. Now we're going to take a quick look at the components for the Villain Pack number 5, Terror Through Time. So we'll start with the rule sheet, so you get an introduction to the components, a list of the components, and then on the back it has rules with interacting with the expansion content. And in case you have not yet faced Nemesis enemies, you do have the rules for how you will face them, as they are a little different. Now, let's take a look at who we got here. So we'll start with Rancic, the big baddie from Time Force. So we can see some of his cards. Blast Burn, deal 2 damage. Increase this damage by an amount equal to this card's value in terms of health. That's pretty nasty. Bone Blade, deal 6 damage during the next ranger turn in this battle. Only the ranger who suffered this damage can play combat cards. If that ranger is defeated, you have to skip the next ranger turn. Eye for an eye. While this card is in play after a ranger attacks a Rancic card, deal 3 damage to each ranger if that card is not defeated. Mutant Mayhem, deal an amount of damage to each ranger equal to this card's health value. And then Mutant Strength, while this card is in play, the health value of all adjacent Rancic cards is increased by 2. When this card resolves, deal 5 damage. So nasty stuff. You can see we've got his deploy card there as well. And here we've got the miniature for Rancic. Looks pretty cool. So we're going to take a look at Decker, who is from Power Rangers Samurai. We've got his Nemesis card. And as you can see, after each Decker card resolves, even if it's defeated, the attached ranger must draw 1 card. So that's for the Nemesis. We've got Peerless Slash. Deal 2 damage to Decker's Nemesis. Increases damage by 1 for each card in their hand. A Proper Duel. defeat and remove all foot soldier cards in the combat sequence, and deal 4 damage to each ranger other than Decker's nemesis. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Ramasa. While this card is in play, after a ranger draws 1 or more cards, they must discard 1 card from their hand. And last, Worthy Foe. Deal 6 damage, and Decker's nemesis must perform an attack with a number of dice equal to the number of cards in their hand. Skip the next ranger turn this battle. So it's really going to be interesting to play against Decker. Like his miniature, you're going to have quite a few different things that you can do, and the skipping of a turn and the stuff that his nemesis can draw cards could play out in some very interesting fashions. Now we're going to take a look at Trakina, the final villain for Lost Galaxy. We've got the Bitter Blade. Deal 5 damage if any Trakina cards are defeated or discarded. Deal 8 damage instead. Chitin Armor. While this card is in play the first time each Trakina card is dealt any amount of damage, reduce that amount to 1. Yeesh. Chitinous Slash, deal 3 damage. Repeat this effect once for each Trakina card that is not that has resolved but is not defeated. Insect Queen. We've got a fast card and passive card. Well, this card is in play after another Trakina card deals any amount of damage to a single ranger. Deal half that much damage rounded up to each other ranger. And then Wasp Cutter, deal 4 damage to a single ranger twice. Oof. She's going to be hitting hard. You're definitely going to want to have a Megazord in play when you're facing her. We'll take a look at her miniature here. Plenty of detail. Like the way she looks. And now we've got Vrak, who I'm not quite sure what series he's from, actually. Kind of looks like maybe Megaforce, but I definitely haven't watched the series he's in. So the ranger with the most cards in their hand cannot play combat cards until at least 1 Vrak card is defeated in this battle. So, deal 2 damage to a single ranger 3 times, Comet Fist. Deal 4 damage, Dark Powers Unleashed. Final form, while this card is in play, each time Vrak deals damage, it is dealt to each ranger. Gosei Orb, deal 4 damage, increase this damage by 1 for each other Gosei Orb in play, and by 2 if Final Form is in play. That's nasty, and there's 3 of those. So yeah, Gosei Orb, so that would definitely be Mega Ranger. Sorry, not Mega Ranger, Power Rangers Mega Force, because that was adapted from Goseiger. And then lastly, we got probably one of the most famous villains that could have even been a villain himself instead of just a monster. We've got Frak, the villain from Time Force. So here we've got his cards. Assault Order. Deal 2 damage to a single ranger twice. If there are at least 4 foot soldiers in this location, deal 2 damage to each ranger twice instead. Dark Science. Drain 1 energy. 1 ranger must discard the top 2 cards of their deck. Focus Fire, deal 4 damage to the ranger with the fewest cards in their deck. Then lastly, Minion Master. While this card is in play, rangers cannot place hit tokens on a Frax card until each foot soldier card adjacent to that card is defeated or resolved. So, plenty of stuff that we don't like to see there. So there you have it. We've taken a look at all the components for the Terror Through Time pack. Now keep it right here as Julie and I will be coming back at you with a review of this expansion. So Julie, what did you think of Villain Pack number 5, Terror Through Time? Were these memorable villains for you? They're memorable for me because I know the IP, and actually these villains are mostly from shows that I've seen, actually, all except for Vrak. I've never seen the show. Didn't finish Samurai, but Decker has a very cool look to him. Rancic and Frax are awesome, and Trakina is a great end villain for Lost Galaxy.
Not much to say about them. I mean, Trakina gave us a little bit of a hard time. The ways the cards came up, they were very frustrating. It was a little bit difficult for us to play her. But besides that, I'd say that they don't really stick out to me. I mean, the most impressive thing I can say is that that villain over there with the wings is pretty impressive. It's impressive mini. Looks like belongs on one of our dungeon crawls or something.
He really does. It actually looks like he could be a hero or a villain. If you look at some of his abilities, like his Gosei Orbs, if you know the franchise, he is from Goseiger and Mega Ranger, Mega Force is what it's called over here. Mega Ranger is Power Rangers in Space. I always get those confused. In any case, he looks pretty cool, and he's definitely a challenging nemesis as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the show, so I'm just basing it on the cards that come up. And like I said, Trakina was annoying. There was another one that was pretty annoying, but I don't actually think it was the boss.
No, Rancic was fairly challenging, but we were able to manipulate his cards. We didn't get a really terrible draw compared to what we got with Trakina. I think the one that was the most annoying was Decker. Decker was a very challenging nemesis. Vrak was not that easy as well, but Decker was by far the worst.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about them. They are what they are. They're a villain. They're, we like to beat them up, and that's what we like to do in this game, and hope that our die rolls are enough to, beat up on them from a health perspective and not have the passive or fast or guard things annoy us.
Yes, luckily we had the Megazord that was able to do that. I do think that the villains are a step up in terms of difficulty compared to some of the other villains that have been placed into the game. I thought that Frax was a little disappointing being just a regular monster. I would have liked to see him as a boss since he is the ultimate villain for Power Rangers Time Force. Spoilers for a 20-year-old show, so too bad. At that point, I thought that Decker and Vrak did a good job in the Nemesis role with some very annoying abilities that go off against their Nemesis. Rancic was definitely a little bit of a disappointment, and I think Trakina was a standout villain. Now, I do feel that Rancic is more challenging than a lot of other villains. For whatever reason, I don't know why, he just wasn't memorable in our epic fight against him. Trakina definitely seemed to be a lot more memorable and challenging. He did push us a little bit, though. We did only defeat 6 of his villain cards, and we only defeated 6 of Trakina's when normally we try to go for all 8 just to push ourselves. We like to make sure the villains are good and gone.
Yep.
So, enjoyable villains, but I would say that maybe not the most memorable, unless these are your favorite villains and your favorite seasons of Power Rangers, then I think they'll stand out to you just a little bit more. On that note, what's your rating?
You know what? I was originally going to give this a 6.5, but the more we think about it, the more we talk about it, it's falling more like a 6. I'm somewhere between a 6 and a 6.5. Looking at that pretty cool mini, I'm tempted to go back up to 6.5. So there you have it. I'm somewhere between 6 and a 6.5.
And I'm on the other spectrum. I think this is a 7. I like the content for the game. That being said, they aren't the most memorable. They're not the most essential villains. They're not the ones that are going to challenge you the most. I definitely enjoyed fighting Lord Zed and Master Vile, and I think they were definitely more challenging. Perhaps it's just with the Time Force Rangers interact with these characters that made it very manageable, if not challenging. This felt more like a puzzle, relying on some random dice rolls to succeed. You can see our fantastic last die roll here, where we get just a whole lot of hits to defeat Trakina, which was a lot of fun. And it was really just making sure all the pieces didn't go off in such a way that we got taken out. And that might also be the reason why you're feeling these guys as a little less memorable. We really weren't on a knife edge ever looking at one of those cards being like, don't blast that Ranger, don't blast that Ranger. It was really more about like, we can figure this out. But I do really like Decker and Vrak. I think they are 2 of the stronger nemesises in the game. I feel that they actually may be stronger than the Psycho Rangers that introduced the system. So if you are a fan of the franchise, fan of this game, looking for more content, you're not necessarily going to be in love with this pickup, but you're not going to be disappointed either.
So on that note, it's time to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we have new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to all of our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see some pictures of Julie and I playing Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, there are plenty on those feeds. Also down there, if you're looking to pick up a copy of this expansion, the base game, or any other games by Renegade Game Studios, there's a link to multizone.ca, a great Canadian game store. Click the link, you'll get 10% off your next purchase, and it's a great way to support the channel. A portion of that purchase will be returned to us. They also do Kickstarter pledges, lots of stuff from Saban, so whatever you're looking for, make sure that you check them out. On that note, we're now going to
grab our drink,
grab our fellow Ranger, and we're going to
keep playing games.